And that's where the disconnect comes in with our bodies, because there's a breakdown when we don't have enough of what our bodies need. And illness and disease come from a lack of adequate nutrition absorbed.
You are now tuned in.
You are now tuned in to Let's Talk About Healing.
I recognize that I wanted to come out of that deep, dark place I was in.
Like the story that we are repeating over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
We can change it.
Yeah.
I went in with an open mind, an open heart, and I said, you know what? I'm willing to learn the truth about all of this because I don't understand.
Now here's your host, Yvonne Pierre.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About Healing, where I have interesting conversations with various guests on a variety of topics on healing the mind, body, and spirit. I'm your host, Yvonne Pierre. I'm really looking forward to this conversation about healing through nutrition with my guest, Robin Muhammed, a mom, nutritionist, entrepreneur, and the founder of Necessary Nutrition, Inc., and the creator of the Necessary Nutrition brand of vitamin D3. She has been featured on CNN, Headline News, and countless other media outlets, sharing her insight on food, nutrition, and life. Robin is a returning guest. She was on this season, season 2, episode 4, which was Running from Love. And if you haven't heard that episode, I highly recommend you check it out. Her name on that show was Alan. It's now Muhammad because she just got married. Robin, welcome back to the show and congratulations to you and your husband.
Thank you. I know I have a husband. We did it.
Yeah.
And those that go back and listen to, I think you said episode 4, will understand how big of a deal this is for me to be married. So I'm excited to be a wife and take that go to the next chapter in my life.
And to experience love on a whole nother level. I'm really happy.
Level. Yeah. He would eat my cashews before, and I would always say in my mind, those are my cashews, like don't eat them. And then now that we're married, I'm like, oh, those are our cashews. So, and I really feel like it's a shift in my mind from me to we. So it's cool. Yeah. It's a good feeling.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, and I'm excited to be here to talk about a topic that I'm super passionate about, which is nutrition and food and vitamin D. So, yeah.
And I think everybody that a lot of our career choices, either we choose it or a lot of times it chooses us. So I'm just really curious to know what inspired you to become a nutritionist.
It chose me. It really did. When I started my career and I went to college for my bachelor's and my master's degree, I didn't have nutrition on my radar. In fact, I didn't know anything about food or nutrition, didn't know anything about the healing power. And I was overweight, pre-diabetic. I would eat, what was given to me. And I would follow all the, the diets and the hypes. And I was clueless. And one day I passed out from my blood sugar being out of control and went to the doctor. And I remember them telling me something that didn't sit right with my spirit. It just didn't make sense to me, but they were telling me to get my blood sugar up. And this is told to a lot of people to take something with sugar. So drink a soda or orange juice. And I was thinking, well, I feel like that's what got me here. And that just, in my spirit, I'm thinking, that doesn't seem in alignment with what it didn't seem right to me
Yeah.
But I didn't make any changes at that time. I went on about my business, but when I became a mother and I was blessed with a child, and I thought, well, I don't know how to take care of myself, and I don't know how to take care of this child. And that started me down the path of studying food and nutrition,
Mhm.
not for myself, but for the benefit of feeding my child. And then I discovered food will either kill you or keep you
Yeah.
alive, and that the illnesses and diseases we face are due in part to what we put in our mouths and what we don't put in our mouths. And that opened up the floodgate where I just became almost obsessed with what food could do and would do. And then I saw a significant shift in my own health. My blood sugar was balanced, my weight came off, and I was confident. And it just changed my
Yeah.
life. And then I went back to school and started to just really study it for the purpose of then sharing what I've learned.
Mm.
So that's how it found me. After I'd gone and got a master's degree in something else, then I went back to school again for
Yeah.
nutrition.
Yeah. That's because sometimes when life happens, put stuff in perspective, and you do shift.
You
You do
do.
shift. And because you became obsessed with it, it became your life's work.
It
Yeah.
has. And really passionate about sharing what I know with other people because all of us have to eat, all of
Yes.
us. And it's tricky. It's tricky. And I think that we are bombarded with information and it's hard to know what to believe, who to trust. And as we have this conversation, because the listeners don't know me per
Hmm.
se, I want to encourage them to do their own
Yeah.
research. You don't know me.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
your own research for yourself. I just want to inspire you to do that as we have this conversation and fact check me. I always say that. Go and fact check me and learn through this conversation for yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I know with me, when I got sick, and I'm not going to get into all that, but I'm diabetic and I have heart disease. And then with my son having Down syndrome and digestive issues
Mm-hmm.
and all that stuff, I became
Mm-hmm.
obsessed with, okay, what do I avoid? What do I eat? And it's so
Yeah.
much information. It's
Yes.
overwhelming.
It is
Yeah,
overwhelming.
and you, of course, there's certain people that I follow online to get more information, but I'm so bombarded with
with
just vitamins.
with vitamins. I think that well, I actually came up with I'm going to mention it but not go into details with it right now, but I actually came up with a 5-step process as far as what to do first, second, third, fourth,
Mm,
fifth when it comes to nutrition because it's a lot
yeah,
and you don't know where to
yeah,
start. And then sometimes what I find is people start something and they don't do it long enough to see if it's actually going
that's
to
true.
work. And we jump around from one thing to the next. So, as we have this conversation, I hope that I can bring some clarity to how people approach their food and nutrition
Yeah.
journey.
We often hear the word nutrition, and for the
Yeah.
most part, I think we understand, it has to do with food. But what is
Yeah.
the actual scope, the role of a
What is it?
nutritionist?
So, I'll tell you what a nutritionist does, and then I'm going to tell you what nutrition
Okay.
is. So, let's talk about what nutrition
Okay.
is. So, nutrition is designed such that when you consume a food, that your body is able to pull the nutrients out of there for the purpose of building and repairing your
Mhm.
body. So, the purpose of nutrition is to build and repair your body. So, sustain you, to help heal you, to help you thrive. And just because you put something in your mouth doesn't mean you've had
Mhm.
nutrition. So, you could have eaten and been full and satisfied to your palate, but maybe had not consumed any nutrients. So, for example, let's say you had a hot Cheeto. There's not a lot of vitamins and minerals in a hot
Yeah.
Cheeto that will touch you at a cellular
Yeah.
level. So, that is what nutrition is. And I know that there's times when we we as a population go through the day, we've eaten, but we didn't consume any
Mm-hmm.
nutrients. And that's where the disconnect comes in with our bodies, because there's a breakdown when we don't have enough of what our bodies need. And illness and disease come from a lack of adequate nutrition
Yeah.
absorbed. Then what a nutritionist does, so we use food and nutrition to heal the body. And different nutritionists have different specialties.
Mm.
I use food and nutrition for the purpose of prevention. So I look at it as, what can we do? What can we take? How can we behave food wise to prevent illness and disease? And then with other lifestyle related challenges, maybe high blood pressure, diabetes, some autoimmunes, digestive issues, then I look at those and say, okay, what can we do? What can we put into the body to help heal those challenges? And so some nutritionists focus just on gut health. Some of them focus just on diabetes. Some of them focus of, there are specialties. And I just like to, my primary thing is, let's get you before you get a thing.
Yeah.
And then, but if you have a thing, meaning if you're overweight, if you have the lifestyle common things that are going on with high blood pressure, diabetes, and all
Mm-hmm.
those, how can we rectify that? Using nutrition, using nutrients.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all foods, well, not all foods, but foods that are nutritious and nutrition dense have vitamins and minerals in it. And that's where we get our vitamins and minerals, except vitamin D, which we'll talk about. There are foods that have vitamin D in it, but that's not the primary
Mm-hmm.
source. The primary source of vitamin D is the sun. And even though it's called vitamin D, it's actually a hormone. But all your other nutrients, A's, B's, C's, zinc, magnesium, all of that are food based. And then when we're not getting enough of certain vitamins and nutrients, then we tend to supplement. We're going to talk more about vitamin D, but there's a whole lot to know and to learn about supplementation overall, and that might be another topic. But yeah, so that's what nutrition is, and that's what my role is as a nutritionist, is to help those that I come in contact ascertain what their body needs and help them get that so they can thrive, because all of us want to feel good, we want to look good, we want to age gracefully, generally
Yeah.
speaking. And that is my role, is to help do that and figure out the best step 1, step 2, step 3, and so on to get to that.
So, from your experience,
Mm-hmm.
what are some of the common misconceptions people have about nutrition?
I think I said it in a sense before. It's thinking that just because you ate something, you had
True.
nutrition. And I think also people are, I don't know if this is a misconception, but this is the way of the world right now, is we eat a lot of foods that are in a box or
Mm,
processed. And that is a challenge for the nature of our bodies. Because when we're doing that, our bodies become so devoid. And one of the things that's a misnomer or a challenge is that we can live our best lives if we're without eating live food. You have to eat live, nutrient dense foods, or your body is going to work against you. Hence, what we're seeing in our world
yeah.
today is more health conditions than ever, more cancer, more autoimmunes, more diabetes, like more of everything. And it's a direct correlation to what we are feeding our bodies. And it's very, very difficult, because when you turn on the TV, you see the things that are very
Yeah.
tempting. I mean, you're not turning on the TV and they're not advertising an apple or fresh fruits and vegetables. It's usually something convenient and
Yeah.
processed. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That
Hmm.
and we're just not taught proper nutrition.
Yeah. And it's hard, Yvonne. It's very difficult because we're busy and there are a lot of convenient ways to eat, not knowing that that convenience, it can work against
Yeah.
us
Yeah.
later. It's crazy. I've been in this industry for 15 years. And when I started, I didn't see the level of illness that I see now. And I'm just
Yeah.
amazed at what I see, our body is being bombarded by chemicals.
Yeah.
So we're bombarded by chemicals and we don't have enough nutrients to combat that.
Yeah. So when you say
And
live food, you mean like fruits and vegetables? Like, not in the can.
yeah, not
Yeah,
in the can. No, and frozen is
yeah,
okay. So you're basically think about food from the earth. Like back in the day, before all the mass production of food, we were hunters and gatherers and we ate from the earth. And now we eat from a
yeah,
box. And so live food that spoils, meaning that it doesn't last forever. Because if you think about like canned vegetables, right, you can have green beans that last
yeah,
forever or a long
years,
time,
yeah,
years, because of it's preserved with sodium and all these things. And live food lives, and there's an expiration on
yeah,
that. And so, yes, live food is where the nutrients
yeah.
are.
So is that why if we're eating survival food, I'll just say, there's been a time where I would eat or shop based on, okay, I have $10. So let me get
Mm-hmm.
some rice and let me get some canned stuff. Let me get some stuff from the dollar store, or let me get
Yeah,
some oodles and noodles, or, whatever,
correct.
to
Yeah,
survive. But
yeah,
so I'm assuming, because we have almost a weight epidemic in this country
we do.
and cancer
Yeah,
epidemic. We have all these
yeah.
different, diabetes and all the stuff
Mm-hmm.
going on. And you kind of already said that is from what we're feeding ourselves, and our
Yeah,
bodies are
yeah.
not,
It's just
can't
out of our
process it.
nature. Yeah, we're acting out of our nature. And when you act out of your nature, chaos ensues.
Mhm.
No matter what you're doing in your life, anything that is against nature, anything, whether it's food, behaviors, anything that you're doing that is against nature, chaos will come from that. I'm going to take it outside of food, but if we look at what's going on with the
Mhm.
weather and all the oddities, but what we're doing with how we're behaving and how we're treating the planet, it's outside of the nature of how it's supposed to go. So because of that, you will see out of order weather that creates out of order results, right? So you have hurricanes and heat waves and things that are out of
Yeah.
order. And then you have, like, I'll say, like, this, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent, but I want to say
Mhm.
this, like mosquitoes in California where we never had them before, and they're biting people and doing all this craziness because things are out of
Yeah.
order. And so when we're thinking about our food, our bodies are responding by being out of order.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Mm-hmm.
causes the chaos. Yeah.
Chaos.
The chaos
Chaos.
inside of us. And even the
Yep.
stress.
Inside of us.
Even the stress is
Yep.
causing
All of it.
chaos inside of our bodies. Wow.
All of it. And the problem is we're in a world of that. We're in a world of that. And what's being shown and promoted to us more than ever before is a pharmaceutical remedy. So it's almost like, oh, it's okay to have these particular health challenges. All you need is this
Yeah.
pill to
Yeah.
fix it. And versus dialing it back. I mean, it's a whole
Yeah.
conversation, but my lot in life, if those that are listening, if I touch one person, then my job is done, because it's an awareness, then it's a shift in behavior. And that's the hardest thing to
Yeah.
do, is to shift our behaviors, because it's so tied into how we wake up, how we go to bed, how we go through
Mhm.
our day.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
it
what
was
we are
it was
accustomed
difficult.
to.
Well, you're accustomed to. I could tell you this. It was very difficult for me to go from how I used to eat to how I eat now, because, like, some of the things that have changed. I don't eat a lot of dairy or cheese or beef or just certain things that I
Mhm.
was only consuming. And then I thought, oh, but this isn't fun. How am I going to enjoy my food? In my mind, that's what I told myself. How am I going to enjoy my food if I'm not eating hot links with barbecue
Right,
sauce and
right.
all the things? And I enjoy my food very, very much. But my mind, it was a mindset
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because we eat a lot for taste. And
we
I'm
do.
vegetarian, and I never
Uh-huh.
thought, and it's been 4 years, but I never would have imagined me being vegetarian because I was a heavy meat eater.
That's yeah, I am I never would have thought of, like I said, not eating beef and eating more. I'm more plant-based. I'm not completely
Yeah.
vegetarian, but before I didn't eat any vegetables at
Yeah.
all. So, and now I eat vegetables mostly. Like that's what I eat more of on a daily. So that's a shift and they taste
Yeah.
great. You can do amazing
Yeah.
things with
Yeah.
cauliflower and so many
And
things. So,
mushrooms, and
yeah,
yeah.
we have to take our life
Yeah.
back.
You can't expect
Yeah,
change if you won't change. Yeah.
correct.
So with
Yeah.
all the depression and
Mm-hmm.
stress
Yes,
that's going
ma'am.
on in the world, is there a connection between mental health and nutrition?
There is. So we have these neurotransmitters. This isn't necessarily my expertise, but I can tell you we have the neurotransmitters in our brain, dopamine and
Mhm.
serotonin. So those are responsible for our moods, our feel good. And there are foods, and I'll give you a few of them that help to naturally bolster dopamine and
Mhm.
serotonin. And then there are foods that take away
Mm.
from those. So just giving you all some foods that help with mood. Dark chocolate, could be green tea, avocados, bananas, seeds. So it could be pumpkin seeds, salmon, eggs, dark leafy greens, and then also poultry. You don't eat turkey or chicken, but there's a I would say a chemical, a natural chemical in there that helps with the mood. So there are foods that boost the
Mm.
mood, and then there are foods that take away from our mood and our overall well-being. One of them being sugar,
Mm. Mhm.
which is in everything just
Yeah.
about. And then it also comes to it's boomerang effect, because when you are eating the foods that are void of nutrients, then your body responds, and maybe then your weight is getting more than you want it to be, and you're not confident anymore. You don't like what you
Yeah.
see, and that makes us sad, right? When we look in the mirror and we don't like the skin we're
Yeah.
in, that changes our mood. So it's two ways that it really does. Food does have a role to play in our neurotransmitters, our happy hormones, and then on the adverse side, certain foods take away from that, and then having foods that don't serve us make us feel a certain way about our bodies. And then when you have certain illnesses and ailments, you're sad about that. Like you don't want to go to the doctor and they tell you that something is adverse. That is not a mood
Yeah.
lifter, right? And people are going to depressions often when they're diagnosed with something that is not what they wanted. So it all works together, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I mentioned in the introduction,
Hmm.
you created Necessary Nutrition, a brand of vitamin D.
Yeah.
So your primary focus seems to be vitamin D3 and K2. Why are those your
Yeah.
primary focus?
Why is that? So I didn't start off that way. Over the 15 years, I've evolved, and that became my primary focus because with vitamin D, it's an easy deficiency to have, but it's also an easy deficiency not to
Mm.
have. And vitamin D is, I would call it like an unsung hero because it touches more than 400 receptors in our cells. And I'll share with you the benefits of it in just a second. And then also share with you what happens when we're low.
Mhm.
But people are oftentimes misdiagnosed for other ailments when their vitamin D was
Mhm.
low, and having the vitamin D restored would take away all of these other situations. And it really just became a mission of mine to share with people how simple it is to get vitamin D into your body, and it's foundational. And it also is interesting to me that it's not talked about as not
Yeah.
enough. And sometimes if you go to the doctor, they may not check your vitamin D. You may have to ask for it. But what really, really turned the needle was during the pandemic. So we've always had vitamin D as a part of our
Mm-hmm.
line. But when it came to the pandemic, research shows, and we started to see that those with a lower vitamin D level or inadequate vitamin D level struggled more with if they got COVID.
Mm.
And y'all can,
Yeah,
for those that are
I
listening,
remember
I want you
that.
to
Yeah.
research. Yeah. And so that's when it like that's when I started to become really fixated on it. And we started to see our sales of vitamin D go up during the pandemic. And that's when I started. So it's been 3 years now that I really started to dig into it. And I was mind blown by what I didn't know and how what all vitamin D touches. So I'm going to share with you all the benefits, and then we'll talk about what the K is for. But vitamin D itself, as I mentioned, there's all these receptors in your cells that need vitamin D to function. But to summarize it, vitamin D, people think of it just for their bones, but it's important for cell growth. So you think about it, your cells is the leader of what happens in your
Mm-hmm.
body. So if it's important to maintain your cell growth and making sure that your cells behave, then if you're deficient, then that doesn't give your body an opportunity to be all that it can be. So the benefits include helping your cells grow. It's beneficial for your mental health and your mood. It helps support your bones, which most people, that's what they think about. It helps with the reduction of insulin resistance. So when people are diabetic, I'm always saying, look at your vitamin D, make sure that you are maximally supported there. It's also significant when it comes to inflammatory issues or inflammation, autoimmune, cardiovascular support. It has positive effects on the gut, and then also with the blood pressure. All of these things that we deal with as a nation, but we also deal with very, very low vitamin D levels. Now, I'm not telling you that just because you take vitamin D, now all of a sudden everything is going to be rectified in your body. But what I'm saying it is it's foundational to the support and the systems of our
Yeah.
body. And it's not a pharmaceutical, it's not expensive. In fact, it is free because it's in the sun. That's where you get it from. Now, most of us are not in the sun, so we're going to talk about supplementation, but it is in the sun. Natural, free, available to all, depending on where you live, but that's where it comes from. And no doctor can write a prescription for that, right? So think about it this way, and I want the listeners to think about it. What happens if people had their vitamin D levels up to par such that maybe they didn't need the level of pharmaceuticals that we're taking? There's not like a whole bunch of money in vitamin D, but there's a whole bunch of money in
Mm-hmm.
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a agenda, I would say, on getting people to take pharmaceuticals, because you can patent a pharmaceutical. You can't patent vitamin D. You can make far more money, someone in pharmaceuticals, not vitamin D. So it is not to tell people to take vitamin D to manage all these conditions or help with these conditions is not lucrative
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Vitamin D is found in the sun, but it can be found in egg yolk, it can be found in mushrooms, but the true source of it is in the sun. And then K2 is found in leafy greens, because I always want to tell people where these nutrients
Mm-hmm.
originate from,
Mm-hmm.
because that's where you would want to get them
Yeah.
from. But a lot of folk are not in the sun, nor are we eating adequate green leafy vegetables and so forth. So what the K does is that when you're taking your vitamin D, So D helps to maintain calcium in our blood, right? It helps with that. The vitamin K, when taken, helps, it's a director. So we have this calcium in our body that, if undirected or misdirected, can go into our arteries, it can go away from our bones, it goes in places that we don't want the calcium to go. So when you take that K, the K helps to put the calcium that's circulating in your body into your bones and away from your heart. And if you are a woman over 40, which is mostly who I work with, we are dealing with menopause and perimenopause, and as we get older, we have bone loss from estrogen and all those things. So vitamin D plus K becomes significant for us as midlife women as we age. And I always say, don't take my word for it, y'all. You never met me. You go research it
Now,
for yourself.
I have heard that if you're going to take D3, that you should take K2 with it. But
Yes,
are
ma'am. Yes,
there
ma'am.
certain people, like diabetics, who can't take K2 with D3?
So there's certain medications that if you take K, it makes the medication not as effective. And also, which is why everybody should do their due diligence depending on what medication that they're on, to see if there is some food and drug reaction, right? Because there's some foods that, like grapefruit and blood pressure medication, like it can adversely affect
Yeah.
that. So K also, with Coumadin and warfarin, which are blood thinning medications, it makes those medications, or can make those medications, less effective. So what I say to folks, well, a couple of things. Make sure that you're not on a medication that is going to be affected by K. And if you are unsure, or you don't know, then you could start with D3 without the K. And so our company produces both. We have D by itself, D3 by itself, and then we have the D with the K. So I'm a nutritionist and this is what I study, but a lot of times I don't know all the people that are making purchases from us. And then a lot of times people meet me through like a podcast or a speaking opportunity, so they get to ask me questions, but not everybody gets to do that. So I always direct them to the D without the K if they are unsure.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
many, many, many years ago, before my heart attack in 2017, I just kept feeling
Mm-hmm.
so exhausted, like extreme
Mm,
exhaust. And my doctor did test me for D3, and I was
mm.
very deficient, like almost to a 1 digit. And
Yeah,
she put me
crazy.
on a pill that was 40 or 50,000 units
50,000,
per
yeah.
week.
Mega
Yeah,
dose, yep.
so
Mm,
fatigue is one sign, but what are some other signs to
mhm.
know that you may be deficient?
Here are some signs. So, very tired is a telltale sign. Mood changes, so becoming overly anxious, muscle weakness, bone pain, hair loss, a weakened immune system. And also, if you, I always say this isn't necessarily a sign, but if you have blood sugar challenges and blood pressure challenges, in that you want to make sure that your D isn't low. So it's interesting to me, and I want to make sure I don't lose any of these thoughts. So those are the signs that you may be
Mhm,
low, but a person could be taking vitamin D and they are not absorbing it for multiple reasons, and their vitamin D levels continue to be low. And that is also an issue, because let's say that they gave you the mega dose of 50,000
mhm,
IUs and your vitamin D levels did not raise at all. That could be an indication of certain
mm,
cancers. That could be an indication of a kidney liver issue, or some autoimmune
mhm,
conditions make it so that we don't absorb it if we're having some gut challenges. And that's also another, it's like knowing where you stand with your vitamin D it just, like I said, it touches so many things. And if you know what it is and you know it's low, then you put it back, and then you're thriving. But if you know it's low and then you're putting a lot of vitamin D in your body and it's not moving, then you can say, okay, let me further
Yeah.
investigate what else is going on. And it's, as I said, it's an easy deficiency to have and an easy one not to have, especially if you have melanated skin. So if you have melanated skin, you have darker pigmentation, it makes it harder for you to absorb it through the sun. So when the sun hits your skin, that's how we begin to produce the vitamin
Mm-hmm.
D. But if we have darker skin, it's going to prevent us from doing that as efficiently and as effectively. So a lot of Black folk are deficient. And then it also, where you live. So if you're living in certain altitudes, like if you live in Boston or certain places don't get a lot of
Mm-hmm.
sun, your deficiency is more prevalent. Or if you're in, like, let's say Washington or Seattle, where it's raining all the time, your vitamin D can be compromised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's, and then winter, like in the winter and the fall, when like the sun isn't even is available to us, most people need to supplement
Yeah.
because of the way that we live. Most people, this is what I want the people listening to do and to know and to understand, is know what your levels are. When you go get your blood work, you make sure you ask the doctor as they're doing your physical to test your vitamin D. Don't allow them not to
Yeah.
do it. They might not even do it.
Yeah.
And you want to be empowered. You want to go in and say, when you're running my blood work, run my vitamin D. I'd like to see where it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then when you know where it is, you might not even know what that means.
Yeah.
They might tell you what it is and you don't know if that's good or
Yeah.
bad.
And that's when
Yeah,
you have to ask questions and do your
you do.
research.
Because the level of 30 is considered, so anything low in the teens, 20s and below, you're deficient, you're severely
Mm-hmm.
deficient. But if you're in the 30s, you're not considered deficient. You're considered, it's okay. But what happens is that it's like minimum wage, right? Minimum wage is okay, but can you thrive and live your best life on minimum wage? Not
Right.
necessarily. So that's what I think with the vitamin D. If you're at 30, you're not deficient, but that's not where your body is maximally supported at 30. So I am at 65. So this is where I want everybody to do their research. I've found that between 60 and 80, you're maximally supported. But you do your own research to know that, right? When your body is maximally supported. And people will ask, well, how much should I take?
Mm-hmm.
And so the answer to that is you take enough so that you get into the range where your body is maximally supported. And the reason why I can't throw out an arbitrary number is because people are different weights,
Yeah.
people are different
Yeah.
heights, people are different skin colors, and people are coming from a different baseline.
Mm-hmm.
But what I also tell people is and we would love to be the supplier of anybody that's listening. If you're taking our
Mm-hmm.
D3K2, you've never taken D3 before, you've never taken K2, I always tell you to start off with one of the capsules. And that starts you off at 2,500
Mm-hmm.
IUs and maintain that until you get your levels checked. And let's say you're taking 2,500 IUs a day and your levels are at 30. You're like, okay, my levels are at 30, that's good, but now I want to be at 60. Then you can double up on that until you get to where you want to
Mm-hmm.
go and maintain that. And then with our vitamin D without the K2, that comes out at 5,000 IUs off the bat. Taking 5,000 IUs a day is not uh, adverse. It won't take you to
Okay.
toxicity or anything
That's what
like
I
that.
was gonna ask. If it's too much.
Yeah, so to get too much, you have to take a whole lot. So toxicity is when your numbers are over 150. That's where the body is toxic. And I've seen some people become toxic during the pandemic because they were so frightened that they were taking like 50,000 a day. That's too
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking 25 to 5,000 a day is fine. And then when you know where you are, then you really know what to adjust to. What I love and anybody that is a customer of Necessary Nutrition, they can always send us a message, and we will give them all information that is beneficial. We love to connect with our customers.
So, if someone knows that they're deficient and they do nothing, or they do the bare minimum, they don't take it serious, what are the risks involved in being deficient and not treating it?
Your body can fall apart, seriously, because first of all, you'll be tired, and then it'll start making other things misfire. For example, one of my friends actually went to her doctor for years. No one ever tested her vitamin D, and she was having pains and sleepless nights and restless legs and all these things. And they were testing her for all kinds of other things. And her life was miserable. She was anxious. She was depressed. She was all these things. And her vitamin D was at a 9. And so then she had vitamin D and she feels better. I'm like, just like that. Just like that. So it's going to make you feel terrible.
Yeah.
It's going to make you feel terrible. And throw other things off. And then if you start going to the doctor and they start giving you medication for things you don't even have.
Yeah.
But you're taking it because you don't know what else to do. So, yeah, that'll mess you up. And you even said you were so tired.
Yeah, I was extremely exhausted and just wanted to sleep all day.
And and it was vitamin D. I mean, that's so, you're like, what?
Yeah.
I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So that's where my passion comes from, is because it's simple. It's a simple supplement, simple sun. I mean, it's easier to supplement, it seems like, than go in the sun, but it's simple.
Yeah.
It's cost effective. It's like it can save us so much
Well, how
grief.
much time would we spend a day in the sun?
In the sun? So it is said that it takes about 15 minutes, but we're all different because some people are in the sun with sunscreen. Some people are in the sun with melanated skin. But start with 15 minutes a day with direct sun and see what your body does. Because no one can tell you exactly what your body is going to do and what it needs. So start with 15 minutes a day.
I noticed too that animals, cats, dogs, sunbathe. Like my cat will seek the sun coming through the window and just go lay in the sun. And when it moves, she moves with it.
We have a nature within us that is our guide. It is our guide, our guidance. But we've gotten away from it. We're not listening to our bodies, but the animals, right? They're still in their nature as much as they can be. Yeah. And they are just rolling around, basking in the sun.
I mean, there's a lot of things that's amazing to me, but I find fascinating how animals innately know what to do.
Instinct.
But we struggle.
And we too know what to do. We struggle because we have gotten away from listening to the truth within, because there's too much noise. And so it's hard to listen when you can't hear because it's noise and distractions. So innately, we all have inside of us the intuitiveness, the spirit, all of that is in there. It's all in there. It's funny when people ask me a question, they ask me what to do. And they always know what to do. They ask me and I ask them, well, what do you want to do? And then they tell me. And then it's like they ask me a question, and I'm ask them the question. And somehow now that I asked them the question, they have the answer. Like, you always knew the answer.
Yeah.
We always know intuitively. So
sometimes it's for validation or to brainstorm with someone.
Correct. Yeah. But I'm so happy to have this conversation just because I know that someone is going to get it and they're going to get them some vitamin D and they're going to feel better.
Yeah.
or prevent them from not feeling good. that's the thing, because sometimes people don't make an action until they're really tired or they don't feel good. And I'm saying, get it before it becomes a
Yeah.
problem, because you're hearing this
Yeah.
interview.
Now, I know
Yeah.
that, well, I've heard that there's certain vitamins that you just can't take too much of, or if you don't need it, like I think magnesium, if you take too much of it and you don't need it, it
Diarrhea.
can cause
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you know, like, so during the pandemic, I mean, I've always
Mm,
obsessed over, making sure that, we take our vitamins. Like I sit down once a week and I have
mm,
like the little dispensers for me and my son and my husband.
yeah.
And I, just sit down with all the bag of, or the little container with all the vitamins and all that. But
Mhm.
recently I said, okay, I need to scale back. Because one doctor
Yes.
told me, he said, "You don't wanna muddy the water."
You don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now there's certain things because we don't eat meat, like we need
Mm,
B12 because you get that from meat,
B12.
or
Mhm.
omega-3, we need that because we don't eat
Mhm.
fish.
Mhm.
So, it's certain
Correct.
things that I know that we need, but the other
Mhm.
stuff, I'm like, I think I got a little paranoid because of COVID. So I knew the D3,
Yes.
I knew certain things,
Mm.
but how do you know
How do you
what
know?
vitamins
Okay.
you should be taking?
You Yes, this is a beautiful question. The first thing, so I'm going to answer that question and then I'm going to tell you what I recommend people
Mhm,
take and in what
mhm,
order. So, how you know is two ways. You get your blood work run, right? Because your blood work is going to tell you about your B12 and your iron and all of those, and your D's and all
mhm,
of those, right? So, that's start
mhm.
with that. So, you start with your blood work. And then let's go in terms of how you feel, right? So, are you tired all the time? Are you having any bone aches? Are you having any changes in the way you
Mhm.
feel, right? So, one is get your blood work done. Two is how you feel. Now, there's so many supplements out there that we do not need, and there are some that we do
Yeah.
need. And so, what I like to tell people is the ones that we do need, because what I say is put the ones in your body that we do need and let your body work with that
Mm,
and see what changes before you add another and another and another and
yeah.
another. So, what I tell people, and this is the order, and this is our 5-step process that I like to say for
Mhm,
people, is number one is make sure your vitamin D level is up to par. So, I say supplement with vitamin D, right? Vitamin D3 and K2 if you
mhm,
can, right? So, that's number one. Number two is I say flood your body with produce, fruits, and vegetables. So,
mm,
every day that I
yeah.
eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever you eat, however you do your meals, I'm always making sure there's produce. I personally take encapsulated produce. I won't be able to talk about that right now, but I make sure that I get 30 raw fruits and vegetables in my system
Yeah.
every day. So, number one is the vitamin D. Number two is to up level your fruits and vegetables, because fruits and vegetables is where the nutrients are. I'm going to tell you this, I don't take any multivitamin at all because there's no evidence that a multivitamin itself makes any changes. And then because I'm intimate with making supplements and I don't have time to go in all to the
Mhm,
intricacies, but a multivitamin is an isolated version of nutrients. And so in fruits and vegetables, there's countless nutrients and minerals,
mm,
and no multivitamin can ever do what fruits and vegetables do. And usually we urinate it out anyway and it's not absorbed. But that's another
yeah,
conversation.
yeah.
So I encourage people to get their produce in. I often introduce people to ways to encapsulate produce and get it in raw. The third thing is the omegas, which is absolutely beneficial for your
Mhm,
mood, for your joints, because a lot of us are deficient. And then, so all you heard me say was the D, I take encapsulated produce, and then I do the omegas. And then I say, stop right there. Stop right there. Don't take anything else, right? See what your body does. I'm going to tell you what the fourth step is, but at that point, The fourth step is shifting your actual food. I do a program called The Shred with my community where every single month for 10 days, we remove sugar from our diets. We remove gluten, dairy, processed foods. There's a whole bunch of protocols, but we really eat clean for those 10 days so we can see what our body is saying and doing, what our gut is saying. And then I say assess. I say get your D, level up on your fruits and vegetables, take your omegas, do the shred. So we're pulling out all the stuff that your body doesn't need necessarily. And then after that period, see how you feel. See what your body does. And oftentimes the body is in such a good state that you don't need anything else. But let's say after that, a person, we know that they still need magnesium for several reasons, or they do need B12, then we say then and only then, right? Because not everybody needs B12. Some people do, some people don't. Not everybody needs additional iron. Some people do, some people don't. But when we do the steps that I mentioned and we shift our food, a lot of those nutritional gaps plug in where you don't need additional supplementation because now your blood work is up to par. That's what I like to tell people to do.
So, like me, I eat mostly fruit and vegetables. Occasionally, I may eat something that I know I shouldn't be eating.
Girl, don't we all? Don't we all? That's like
For the most part, I'll say 90% of what I eat is fruit and vegetables. So, in that case, could it be that I'm overflooding my system with vitamins by adding supplements on top of that?
It could be. You could be giving yourself something you don't need. Yeah, you don't need what you don't need. Yeah, let me ask you this. When you started changing your eating and flooding your body with all this produce, did you notice a difference in how you look, how you feel, how your body behaved?
Yes.
Absolutely. And that's the key. That's the key.
I
Just to
noticed
say
in my
that for people to
skin
hear.
too. Even my son, he does sports now too. He played for Special Olympics. Right now we
How old is
in
he?
baseball softball season. He's 21.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now that I make sure we take stuff for his gut health, because that's the main health issue he had was gut issues. And he had a big gut since he was little up until I changed his diet. Now his stomach is fairly flat.
Good.
But
Yeah,
I
that
made
diet.
sure that I give like every day what really works is prunes, natural
Yes,
prunes.
girl.
Keep
Prunes from the
keep
earth.
'em
Nobody
regular.
just as just as natural as can
Yeah,
be.
yeah,
Prunes. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't a
no.
drug. It was
And I had
prunes.
tried everything, but it wasn't until I
Everything.
started giving him prunes, I'm like, "Oh."
Yeah.
So
And please don't stop. And please don't stop. It's from the earth. It's natural. You're on. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I love
yeah,
it. It's really it's like, and you said you tried everything. You tried everything but something natural,
yeah,
right? Some
yeah.
prunes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but once I
Yeah.
switched
Yeah.
our diet and eating right, and I pack his lunch for school and all that, now he's
It's a
he's
world
doing
of
really
different
even when they run his blood work at the doctor, his health is in good condition.
in
Yeah,
good condition. So it's and you said it. That's the power of nutrition.
yeah,
It's the power of nutrition. It's the power of knowledge, and um, it's the power of
yeah,
produce.
yeah,
Yeah. And so I would say to the listeners, you may not need all the things you think that the world is telling you to
mhm,
have. And we take stuff just because, somebody said it to
yeah,
take it. There are certain things like right now it's real popular sea
yeah,
moss. I don't take sea moss. I don't have anything good or bad. I don't have anything bad to say about sea moss, but I take omegas. So they do similar
mhm,
things. And I have what I need and my body is functioning
yeah,
fine. So I go with
yeah.
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do we be a part of your community?
Yeah, so thank you for asking. I want to say this. Everyone that makes a purchase through Necessary Nutrition gets an automatic membership to what we call the Necessary Nutrition
Hmm.
Academy. Everybody. And when you're a part of the Necessary Nutrition Academy, we have educational programming quarterly, but they're always recorded. So we have guests that come in that are experts. And I said we deal with mostly women over 40 and their
Hmm.
families, and the content is really geared toward that segment of the population. So, for example, we just had an expert talking about adrenal
Hmm.
glands and adrenal fatigue. So, we bring all of our customers into that space, and our intention really is to supply you with your vitamin D and help you get more produce in your body, but also be your partner with nutrition and resource, a trusted
Yeah.
partner. So, and how to find us is necessaryvitamind.com, necessaryvitamind.com. And then on Instagram, we're at Nessie Nutri. N is in Nancy, E, S is in Sam, S is in Sam, Y, Nutri, at Nessie Nutri. And my company is Necessary Nutrition. And we would love to support you all on your nutrition journey and help you step by step get to where you want to be.
Wow. So thank you so much. This was very,
You're welcome.
this was very educational for me. Um,
Yes. And really healing through
yeah,
nutrition and
yeah.
because I really like you. I like your story and I like talking to you.
Thank
But
you. I like you too.
you always have a relatable story to the topic, and even just you being able to say how nutrition improved your
Yeah.
life. And it's simple, but it's complex,
Mm,
right? Because we can change the trajectory of our life by what we eat, but sometimes we do it kicking and screaming. And oftentimes we do it because something adverse happened to
yeah.
us. And then we're, trying to play catch up in a
Yeah.
sense. So if we can encourage people to either course correct or get ahead
Yeah.
of it, then we've done our
Yeah.
job.
Well, this was really good. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming back
You're
and
welcome.
having this necessary conversation.
Yes,
Necessary
yes, yes,
conversation.
yes,
Um, yeah,
absolutely.
and I'm sure those who are listening are walking away with something and, you know,
Absolutely. Healing through
yeah.
nutrition. That's it.
And
That's
even
what
if you
it's
have to
about.
take baby steps.
You probably
Yeah.
should, a lot of
Yeah.
people, right? It's like I didn't start. It's like some people just go all in. But when I started shifting my nutrition, I just couldn't wrap my mind around certain things.
Mhm.
So I took baby steps, and it's been 18 years. I've been in this as a nutritionist for 15 years, but it's been 18 years since I shifted how I was
Yeah.
eating. But I
Yeah.
changed. Like I'm more plant based now, and that's not what I was when I started. I just stopped eating beef and cheese and dairy,
Yeah.
but I was still doing all kinds of other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
baby
Well,
steps.
Robin
hmm
Muhammed,
Yes, I know. I forget
thank
my.
you
Sometimes I'm like, who?
so much
You're
for everything you're
welcome.
doing for the community, for those who are
Thank
seeking,
you.
hopefully everyone is seeking, but those who are seeking to get healthy and to get
Yeah,
their health on track. Um,
yeah.
yeah, this is
And
awesome.
I want to say this because when it comes to health, there's no get there, meaning that we're always evolving,
Mhm.
always. And as we're growing, some things our body used to do, used to like, it stops doing
Yeah.
that. And that's just the way it goes. And I always think of it as like the health is like, and life is like riding a mechanical bull, and it's always trying
So
to
you
throw
yeah,
you on the
yeah,
ground and you trying to stay on. That's the health journey.
yeah. So say
Yeah,
your
yeah.
website again.
Necessaryvitamind.com.
Necessaryvitamind.com. Well, thank you
Yep.
again,
You're
and
welcome.
congratulations again.
I know. I was married.
Thank you. And to
Yes.
the listeners, thank you for tuning in, taking time out of your day to tune in. Um, It really does mean a lot. And I appreciate you tuning in to not just this episode, but each and every episode. And I hope that you get something from it. I definitely did. And I hope that you did too. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to share it, like, comment. You owe it to yourself to heal and grow on purpose. Until next time, be blessed.
Thank you for tuning in to Let's Talk About Healing with Yvonne Pierre. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe, like, and share.